the night I decided to camp in the cursed forest. I didn't know I'd never see the world the same again. Before we start, join our YouTube family by subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, let's get into the story. Ryan had always been the kind of person who felt alive in the places others avoided. While his peers found comfort in routine, in predictable streets, and well-lit neighborhoods, he was drawn to the wild edges of the world, to places where the air smelled different, where shadows moved like they had a mind of their own. His friends often teased him, saying he had a death wish, but Ryan thought of it as a hunger, a craving for truth, for discovery, for the kind of stories that would make a person shiver and then smile. Long after the danger had passed, when he first heard the rumors about the forest on the outskirts of his town, he felt that familiar pulse of excitement. Cursed, the villagers had said. No one returns from there. The words would have terrified most. But for Ryan, they were like a beacon, calling him toward something extraordinary. He spent days preparing for the expedition, though preparation was relative. He scoured old maps, bought the sturdiest tent he could find at a thrift store, packed enough food to last a week, and carried a flashlight that was barely powerful but somehow seemed to have character. He trained himself mentally, imagining every scenario: a branch snapping in the night, an animal slinking past his tent, the eerie feeling of being watched. What he didn't do was talk himself out of it. Ryan had learned that fear existed mostly in the mind, and if he could confront it, he could push beyond it. So when the morning came, crisp with autumn air and the promise of adventure, he slung his backpack over his shoulders and set off toward the forest. Ignoring the warnings that still echoed in his mind like ghosts, the edge of the forest was abrupt. One moment the ground was clear and the sun shone without obstruction. The next, thick roots sprawled across his path. Trees loomed above like silent sentinels, and the light dimmed into a muted green haze. Ryan paused, taking in the sudden change in atmosphere. The smell of damp earth, moss, and something faintly metallic filled his nostrils. The forest seemed older than time, ancient and patient, as if it had been waiting for him or anyone curious enough to dare its interior. He adjusted his backpack, took a deep breath, and stepped into the shadows. Hours passed as Ryan navigated the uneven terrain, moving carefully but with determination. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of a branch made his heart race. Yet he felt more alive than ever. He reminded himself constantly that the stories of curses were just that, stories meant to keep people away. Still, he couldn't ignore the feeling that the forest watched him, that it measured him. The deeper he went, the more the light faded. Shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy occasionally, illuminating patches of moss that seemed almost fluorescent in the dim. Ryan found small signs that someone or something had been here before, footprints that didn't quite match the local wildlife, faint carvings on the bark of certain trees, stones arranged in patterns too deliberate to be natural. Each discovery made him more curious, more insistent on continuing. He knew he was alone, but the solitude was comforting in a strange way, giving him room to think, to observe, to imagine the forest not as a threat, but as a puzzle to solve. By late afternoon, Ryan stumbled upon a small clearing. It was almost perfect in its symmetry, as if someone had planned it long ago. Sunlight filtered through the trees in a golden haze, dust particles dancing like tiny fireflies. He dropped his pack, feeling a rare thrill of triumph. This would be his campsite for the night. Setting up his tent, he worked methodically, securing stakes and carefully laying out his supplies. The forest around him hummed with life, the chatter of birds, the rustle of small animals in the underbrush, the whispering of the wind through the leaves. Yet, beneath the normal sounds of nature, there was something else, a rhythm, almost musical, that didn't belong to the world he knew. Ryan tilted his head, listening, and for a moment, he wondered if he was imagining it. Night fell quickly, and with it came a chill that seeped into his bones despite the layers he wore. Ryan lit a small lantern, its warm glow casting long, dancing shadows across the clearing. He sat outside the tent, knees drawn up, staring into the darkness. His flashlight lay beside him, ready, but he didn't want to use it yet. The soft light might ruin the subtle magic of the forest at night. Then he heard it, the faintest sound at first, almost imperceptible. A note, high and pure. Like a song carried by the wind, he froze, heart pounding. It wasn't coming from a bird or a wolf. It was something different, something deliberate. Another note followed, then another, forming a melody that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Ryan's fear and fascination collided, a strange cocktail that left him alert but craving more. He felt an irresistible pull toward the source, a whisper in his mind that said, "Go see what lies within." Ryan knew he could stay in the safety of the clearing, the tent, and his food, but the forest's song was too enticing. His curiosity, his defining trait, would not allow him to retreat. He packed a small bag with Essentials lantern water. Nifan followed the melody into the darkened forest. Branches scraped against his jacket, and shadows loomed unnaturally around him. His mind raced with questions. What if it was a trap? What if the stories were true? But even as the rational part of him screamed to turn back, a stronger part, the part that had led him, urged him forward. Every step seemed to echo in the dense silence. Every breath, a reminder that he was venturing into the unknown. And then, as the wind shifted and the forest's song grew louder, Ryan felt it. A pulse, a heartbeat in the earth beneath his feet, matching his own, guiding him deeper and deeper. He could not have known that this path would change. Everything he thought he knew about the world, about fear, and about himself. Somewhere ahead, hidden just beyond the next rise, a secret waited and Ryan was about to uncover it. Ryan moved cautiously, letting the haunting melody guide him through the thickening forest. The darkness seemed to wrap around him like a living thing, twisting shadows into shapes that teased his imagination. Every step brought new obstacles, gnarled roots that threatened to trip him, low-hanging branches that scratched at his arms, and patches of mud that sucked at his boots. Yet, with each challenge, Ryan felt a strange sense of exhilaration. He realized that this journey wasn't just about discovering what lay ahead. It was about testing himself, about seeing what he was capable of when the world itself seemed to conspire against him. Fear had been his companion for so long, but now it had transformed into focus, a sharp clarity that made him feel more alive than ever. The forest around him seemed to change as he went deeper. The trees grew taller, their trunks twisted into impossibly intricate patterns, and the air became dense with the scent of moss, damp earth, and something faintly sweet, like the aroma of unseen flowers. It was intoxicating and unsettling at the same time. Ryan's senses were on high alert. He could hear the scurrying of small creatures, the distant crash of falling branches, and the constant, subtle undertone of the melody that had drawn him this far. It was a sound unlike any he had heard before, melodic yet alien, as if the forest itself had a voice. He wondered how something so beautiful could exist in a place so feared. Perhaps the villagers' stories had twisted the truth. Maybe the forest wasn't cursed, it was simply protective, guarding something precious. Hours are perhaps only moments passed in a blur of shadows and strange sounds. Time seemed irrelevant in this place, bending around him like the twisted roots beneath his feet. Ryan's mind wandered, reflecting on the decisions that had brought him here. He remembered the ridicule of his friends, the disapproving glances of his parents, the whispered warnings of strangers. Every step into the forest was a rebellion against their limitations, a declaration that he would not be confined by fear or expectation. He felt a swelling pride in his courage, though it was tempered by the sobering realization that courage alone might not be enough to face what lay ahead. Still, he pressed on, driven by a mixture of curiosity, defiance, and a deep-seated need to uncover the truth. The forest opened slightly, revealing a narrow path lined with stones that glimmered faintly in the dim light. It was as though someone had deliberately marked the way, guiding him toward a destination he could not yet see. Ryan followed it, heart pounding, adrenaline sharpening his senses. He noticed small details he might have missed before. Delicate carvings on the bark of trees, faint footprints in the mud that didn't match any animal he knew, and the occasional flash of movement just beyond his vision. Each discovery heightened his anticipation, making the forest feel less like a place of danger and more like a puzzle, each clue leading him closer to an unseen truth. Then, without warning, the path widened into a glade that seemed to exist outside of time. Lanterns floated gently above the ground, casting warm, golden light over cottages woven from wood, vines, and flowers. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, carrying the comforting scent of firewood and baking bread. Ryan blinked, convinced he was hallucinating. But the details were too vivid, too real. The glade was alive with movement. People with kind Weathered faces emerged from doors and windows. Watching him with curiosity, their eyes were not filled with fear or suspicion, but with a quiet, cautious welcome. Ryan realized that this hidden village had been protected for generations. Shielded by the forest's mysterious aura, outsiders had been kept away not by malevolence, but by the forest's own sense of guardianship. As he stepped into the glade, Ryan felt a mixture of awe and humility. The villagers moved gracefully, as if accustomed to the presence of outsiders in rare, controlled instances. Children peeked shyly from behind doors, while elders nodded in acknowledgement, their expressions both welcoming and guarded. Ryan's pulse quickened, but he forced himself to remain calm. He had always believed that understanding came from observation, from patience, and now those principles were being tested. He noticed the smallest details, the way the lanterns seemed to sway in rhythm with the wind, the intricate carvings on the cottage doors, and the gentle hum of life that resonated from the village. Each element told a story of care, of centuries-old traditions maintained in harmony with the forest around them. An elderly woman approached him, her eyes sharp but kind. She spoke in a language Ryan didn't understand, yet her tone was melodic, soothing. Her gestures invited him forward, and he cautiously followed, stepping over roots and small stones, feeling the soft ground beneath his boots. As they walked, Ryan realized that he was not just observing this village, he was being integrated into it, accepted on terms that transcended words. The forest had tested him, and he had shown respect, patience, and courage. Those qualities, more than any skill or knowledge, seemed to matter most here. The villagers led him to a circle around a central fire, where others had gathered. Ryan felt a profound sense of connection, as if he had entered a world that existed parallel to his own, hidden and protected. Stories were shared in gestures and expressions, in songs and rhythmic movements that spoke to the essence of life in the forest. Ryan listened intently, absorbing everything, learning without words. He realized that this experience was changing him. His understanding of courage, of fear, of curiosity, and of humility deepened with each passing moment. He saw that bravery was not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it, guided by respect and awareness. As the night stretched on, Ryan understood that the forest's melody had been a test, a lure designed not to harm, but to reveal the worthiness of those who entered. The village was not cursed, was sacred. Its hidden existence relied on the integrity of those who approached it. Ryan felt a swell of responsibility, knowing that the knowledge he had gained came with a silent obligation to honor and protect the secrets of this extraordinary place. The realization filled him with a mixture of pride, reverence, and anticipation. He had crossed a threshold few ever reached, and the journey was far from over. As the fire crackled and the villagers' songs blended with the whispers of the forest, Ryan's attention was drawn to a narrow path that disappeared behind a cluster of ancient trees. Something glimmered faintly in the distance, a movement that hinted at yet another secret hidden within the village. His pulse quickened again. He sensed that this night, his first in the heart of the forest, was only the beginning. There were truths still waiting to be uncovered, mysteries that demanded courage and careful observation. And as he felt the pull of curiosity once more, Ryan knew that the forest had not yet revealed all it held. A hidden path beckoned him forward, promising revelations that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the world and about himself. The dawn light filtered softly through the dense canopy as Ryan awoke on a bed of woven reeds and moss. Inside one of the village cottages, the night had been unlike anything he had ever experienced, filled with melodies that seemed alive and whispers of stories that transcended time. He stretched, feeling a mixture of fatigue and exhilaration. His muscles ached from the trek through the forest, but his mind was buzzing with discovery and wonder. The villagers were already stirring, moving quietly about their routines, yet their glances carried a gentle warmth. Ryan realized that, despite being a stranger, he was no longer an intruder. The forest had deemed him worthy, and the village had accepted him. Stepping outside, he was greeted by the soft glow of morning light dancing across lanterns and cottages. The forest around the village was alive with subtle movements, birds gliding silently from branch to branch, leaves trembling as if in conversation with the wind, and the faint, lingering hum of the melodies that had drawn him here. Ryan felt a deep connection to this world, as though each element of nature was attuned to his presence. He understood now that the forest's curse was a misinterpretation. Warning to outsiders, yes, but more importantly, a protective mechanism designed to preserve the village's delicate balance. This was not a place of danger, but of guardianship, and those who entered it with respect were gifted with its secrets. The villagers invited him to join them at the central fire, where elders and children alike gathered to share stories and perform rituals that had been passed down for generations. Ryan observed with fascination, realizing that every song, every gesture, every crafted object had meaning. These were not idle traditions. They were lessons in harmony, in courage, in respect for life and the unseen forces that guided it. As he listened, he reflected on his own life outside the forest, the mundane routines, the pressures of conformity, the constant avoidance of risk. In comparison, the village was vibrant, alive with intention and purpose. He understood that this experience was not merely an adventure. It was a profound lesson in living fully, in embracing curiosity without fear, and in understanding that true courage was intertwined with humility and respect. Throughout the morning, Ryan was shown various aspects of village life. He helped gather herbs from the forest, learning their uses and properties, and assisted in repairing cottages, discovering the intricate craftsmanship that had gone into every structure. Each task reinforced a sense of purpose, a feeling of being part of something larger than himself. The villagers were patient teachers, guiding him gently, but allowing him to learn through observation and action. Ryan felt his confidence grow, not in the reckless bravado that had driven him to enter the forest, but in a quiet, assured capability. He realized that courage was not only about facing external threats, but also about understanding one's place in the world and contributing meaningfully to it. As the sun climbed higher, Ryan found himself drawn to the edge of the village, where the forest thickened into shadows and mystery. He noticed subtle signs of the village's interaction with the surrounding wilderness, carved symbols on trees marking safe paths, small offerings left in hidden niches, and the faint, almost imperceptible trails of animals that seemed unafraid of human presence. The forest and the village existed in a delicate symbiosis, each protecting and nurturing the other. Ryan's admiration deepened, and with it came a sense of responsibility. He realized that he could not simply leave and return to the ordinary world unchanged. The knowledge he had gained, the lessons he had absorbed, demanded careful stewardship. He would honor the village's trust, carry its secrets with integrity, and apply its teachings to his own life. By mid-afternoon, Ryan was approached by the village elders, who communicated with him in gestures and expressions that conveyed a profound respect and trust. They guided him to a small clearing where an ancient tree stood, its branches stretching skyward like a cathedral spire. Carved into its bark were intricate symbols that told stories of generations past, of trials faced and wisdom earned. Ryan ran his fingers over the carvings, feeling the history pulse beneath his fingertips. The elders demonstrated a ritual, simple yet deeply symbolic, marking him as a guardian of the forest's participant in its ongoing story. Ryan felt an overwhelming mix of humility and pride. He was no longer merely a curious boy exploring the unknown. He was now a custodian of knowledge, entrusted with preserving a legacy that had endured for centuries. As evening approached, Ryan gathered by the central fire once more, reflecting on the transformation he had undergone. The forest that had once seemed ominous now felt protective. The village that had seemed hidden now felt like home. He understood that fear had not vanished, nor had curiosity. Rather, they had been refined, tempered by experience and understanding. He felt a deep gratitude for the opportunity to witness a world so different from his own, to learn from people whose lives were guided by principles he had never encountered before. The lessons of courage, patience, respect, and awareness would remain with him long after he left the forest. When the time came for Ryan to return to his town, the villagers guided him back through the forest along a path he had not noticed before. The journey was easier now. The trees seemed to part willingly, the shadows softened, and the melodies of the forest accompanied him, reassuring and gentle. He felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not for having found the village, but for having earned its trust and understanding. He realized that the true reward of his adventure was not the discovery itself, but the growth it had inspired within him, the transformation from a daring, curious boy to a thoughtful, courageous young man capable of respecting the mysteries of the world. while engaging with them fully. As Ryan emerged from the forest's edge, the village hidden once more behind the veil of trees and shadows, he paused to take one last look. The sunlight glinted through the canopy, illuminating the moss-covered trunks and the faint glimmer of lanterns from afar. A smile crossed his face, tempered by the solemn knowledge that he had been entrusted with a secret he could never fully reveal. The villagers' voices, carried faintly on the wind, seemed to whisper their blessing, a reminder that he had passed a test not only of bravery but of character. Ryan walked back toward his town, each step lighter and more confident than before. He had ventured into the cursed forest and discovered not danger, but wisdom, not terror, but a hidden world that had forever changed him. And deep within, he knew that the forest's lessons would echo through every choice he made, guiding him with the gentle, insistent melody of courage, curiosity, and respect.